Chapter 341. There's no time to lose, let's set off immediately to rescue Elder Hung, Songwon said. Rong Jingyun looked at Songwon with gratitude. Thank you, Elder Wu, please follow me. Rong Jingyun used her sword to fly ahead, leading the way. The two of them followed the river downstream, flying several miles. Then, Rong Jingyun leaped into the rushing river. Songwon didn't hesitate to follow. He let the sacred goo dive into the water first before jumping in himself. The current was swift, but Songwon moved through the water like a fish, easily navigating through after diving for over 10 meters. Songwon followed Rong Jingyun into an underwater cave. Rong Jingyun walked ahead cautiously, fearing that there might be monsters lurking in the water. The underwater cave twisted and turned, and after moving forward for over 10 miles, they came across two forks in the cave. One fork wound forward, while the other slanted upward. Rong Jingyun chose the upward path. After moving forward for a bit longer, Rong Jingyun suddenly stopped and communicated with Songwon through sound transmission. We are less than a mile from the water's surface. Above the surface is an underground cave where my husband is located. The burrowing beast should still be guarding the cave. Once we enter, Elder Wu, please hold off the burrowing beast while I seize back the flame-light cauldron. If we can slay the burrowing beast, that would be even better. Songwon nodded, restraining his aura, and moved ahead of Rong Jingyun. He slowly floated upward and, as they neared the water's surface, he sent the sacred goo to probe the surface first. The cave above was roughly the size of several acres. In one corner of the cave lay a large flame-light cauldron tipped over onto the ground. The one-eyed burrowing beast was striking the cauldron with its claws, producing loud clanging noises. It would occasionally bite the cauldron with its sharp teeth but could not harm it in the slightest. After several failed attempts, the burrowing beast grew annoyed and swung its massive tail, striking the cauldron fiercely. The flame-light cauldron was immediately knocked into the air, crashing against the rock wall. The wall was dented from the impact, with stone debris flying everywhere as rocks tumbled down. Seeing the scene from underwater, Songwon activated his spiritual energy and used the lightning spear technique. With all his strength, 3 spear-like bolts of lightning shot out of the water. At the same time, Songwon leaped out of the water, charging toward the burrowing beast. When enemies meet, there is nothing but enmity. Upon seeing the incoming figure, the burrowing beast, with its remaining eye, flashed with a bloodthirsty red light. Previously, it was this person's lightning magic that had disrupted it, allowing that woman to ambush and injure one of its eyes. The human in front of it was mediocre in strength. Its lightning magic could only give it a tickle. How dare this human come chasing after it alone? It was simply looking for death. The burrowing beast exerted its limbs, leaping high into the air and pouncing towards Songwon. At the same time, a layer of earthen yellow light glowed around it, like a thick armor that protected it. Beast, die. Songwon roared. He formed a hand sign for the lightning technique. A bolt of lightning as thick as a water barrel condensed at the cave's ceiling. At that moment, the 3 lightning spears struck the burrowing beast. The lightning erupted, illuminating the entire cave. The earthen yellow armor on the burrowing beast was instantly shattered. The residual force of the lightning spears slammed the burrowing beast down to the ground. Anger flashed in the eyes of the burrowing beast. Humans are truly despicable and cunning. They hide their true strength. The power of this lightning spear was several times stronger than before. At that moment, the large cave's divine thunder had already coalesced. Feeling the terrifying pressure from the divine thunder, deep fear appeared in the eyes of the burrowing beast. A denser earthen yellow light surged forth from its body. At the same time, its 4 limbs began to dig into the ground simultaneously. Rocks were thrown aside, and in an instant it had dug a large pit. The stones that were dug out seemed to be attracted by the earthen yellow glow automatically wrapping around its body. From a distance, it looked like a massive stone beast lying on the ground. At that moment, the divine thunder descended upon the cave. Boom. Debris shot everywhere. The surrounding rock walls echoed with loud thuds. The rock armor on the burrowing beast was instantly shattered. However, the burrowing beast itself was nowhere to be seen. Only a pit remained in the ground. In such a short time, it had already burrowed underground. Beast, don't you dare run away. Songwon flashed to the top of the cave entrance. He could still see half of the burrowing beast's tail. It was desperately digging to escape. The rock armor hadn't completely blocked the divine thunder. Many of the scales on the burrowing beast were shattered. With its scales broken, blood flowed profusely, making it look extremely miserable. Songwon raised his hand to summon a short spear, which crackled with lightning. Go. He threw the short spear into the underground cave. The spear pierced through the damaged scales, embedding itself into the burrowing beast's body. Lightning raged within the burrowing beast, causing it to lose its breath instantly. At this moment, Rong Jingyun, who had just emerged from the water and was preparing to retrieve the flame-light cauldron, suddenly stopped. She turned to look at Songwon, her face filled with shock, mixed with a hint of vigilance. The burrowing beast was known for its strong defensive capabilities, yet Songwon had easily dispatched it with just a few moves. Even at her peak, she would have found it extremely difficult to slay this burrowing beast so easily. Elder Rong, shouldn't you hurry to check on Elder Hung? Rong Jingyun withdrew her gaze and turned to the side of the flame-light cauldron. The flame-light cauldron was a high-grade spirit tool containing mysterious formations that had prevented the lid from being opened despite the burrowing beast's repeated attacks. Rong Jingyun channeled her spiritual energy and activated the cauldron, prying open the lid. With a flick, she only opened a small gap. As her spiritual sense probed into the cauldron, her face changed drastically, becoming filled with panic. Elder Heng's condition seemed dire, so bad that she couldn't be as discreet as before and pushed the lid wide open. She used her spiritual energy to lift Elder Heng from within the cauldron, or rather, she lifted Elder Heng's lifeless body from inside. Elder Heng was already dead, his body devoid of any breath, and no deity could save him. He must have died not long ago, as his soul hadn't yet dispersed. Rong Jingyun swiftly formed several hand seals and directed them at Elder Heng's body. Then she took out a jade vial from her storage ring, preparing to do something. Suddenly, her movements froze and she looked up at Songwon, her expression wavering. It seemed that upon seeing Elder Heng's death, she had lost her composure and momentarily forgotten that Songwon was still beside her. After pondering for a moment, Rong Jingyun said, "Elder Wu, what you see and hear from here on out, I implore you do not disclose a word outside, otherwise I will have no place to stand within the beast control sect." Songwon frowned, looking at Rong Jingyun with suspicion. Earlier, the hand seals that Rong Jingyun cast on Elder Heng's corpse were soul-binding spells. This was a common technique among demonic cultivators intended to bind the soul of the deceased, preventing it from dissipating and moving on to its rightful place. Chapter 342. Songwon said, "Elder Rong, you and your husband share a deep bond. I understand your sorrow. If you wish for Elder Heng to possess another body and be reborn, it is not without justification." Rong Jingyun shook her head. "Elder Wu, you misunderstand. In any case, what happens next must never be mentioned to outsiders. Time is of the essence. Please allow me to explain in detail later." After saying this, she no longer paid attention to Songwon. She opened the jade vial in her hand, and a rich, rancid aura of corpse energy wafted out. She performed a spell, manipulating the corpse energy to merge with Elder Heng's body. Songwon stood silently by, watching Rong Jingyun's actions. The spell she was casting was something Songwon was all too familiar with. She was refining Elder Heng's corpse, refining a living corpse. A living corpse can maintain the body's vitality so that even decades later, the body still appears as if it had just died. Creating a living corpse is a very malicious technique. Those turned into living corpses have their souls imprisoned within their bodies, able to perceive their surroundings but unable to respond in any way. Every action they take can only be controlled by others. Living corpses can sense the emotions of others, hear their laughter and anger, yet they cannot communicate with the outside world. It's as if they are isolated from the world. Over time, the torment their souls endure is beyond imagination. Watching Rong Jingyun's movements, Songwon felt a surge of doubt in his heart. Had her husband died, and was Rong Jingyun so grief-stricken that she couldn't accept reality, wanting to turn him into a living corpse to accompany her forever? The process of refining a living corpse is not difficult. What's difficult is that the materials needed for refining a corpse are numerous, and some are not easy to obtain. However, Rong Jingyun's storage ring surprisingly contained all the required materials. It was as if she had anticipated that her husband would die in this expedition into the secret realm, or perhaps she had long made plans. The process of refining a living corpse is essentially a form of torture for the soul within the body. Elder Heng's soul struggled fiercely, trying to escape from the corpse, yet, no matter how hard he struggled, he remained tightly imprisoned within his body, unable to break free from the binding of the soul-binding technique. "Jingyun, what are you doing? It feels like my soul is being torn apart. Please stop. Stop. Jingyun, I beg you, let my soul return to the underworld, please." Faced with her husband's pleading soul, Rong Jingyun felt a flicker of compassion and reluctance, yet the spell she was casting did not pause for a moment. About an hour later, the living corpse was completed. Rong Jingyun took out a corpse-nurturing coffin and placed the body inside. After putting away the nurturing coffin, Rong Jingyun turned to look at Songwon. "Elder Wu, you witnessed what happened just now. I ask you not to tell anyone about this matter." Songwon replied, "Elder Rong, Elder Hang's life and death have nothing to do with me. How to handle his corpse is a matter for you and your husband. I am not concerned. However, I am quite curious about your reasoning for doing this." Rong Jingyun said, "Elder Wu, do you know about the heart tribulation?" Songwon replied, "Are you referring to the heart tribulation that cultivators face when forming their golden core?" Rong Jingyun nodded. "The heart tribulation is the final hurdle in forming the golden core, testing the cultivator's character. When overcoming the heart tribulation, the cultivator may fall into demonic obstacles. If they break through, they achieve a successful golden core. If not, they fail in their attempt. About 15 years ago, I inadvertently obtained an ancient pill recipe that detailed a method for refining a pill called obstruction-breaking pill. Taking the obstruction-breaking pill can greatly increase the probability of successfully overcoming the heart tribulation. And to refine the obstruction-breaking pill, the most essential ingredient is the blood, flesh, and soul of a beloved and close relative. Upon hearing that the obstruction-breaking pill could increase the probability of overcoming the heart tribulation, Songwon felt a surge of excitement. This was the first time he had heard of such a pill existing. However, when he heard that refining the pill required the blood, flesh, and soul of a beloved relative, he couldn't help but feel despondent. He was all alone. Where would he find someone so close and dear to him? Moreover, Songwon questioned himself, even if he had a beloved person, he probably wouldn't be able to go through with it in this regard. He felt he was not as resolute as Rong Jingyun. Rong Jingyun was truly someone who pursued longevity wholeheartedly. For the sake of a higher cultivation level, she could be utterly ruthless. Songwon said, "Elder Rong, may I take a look at the recipe for the obstruction-breaking pill?" "Of course." Rong Jingyun raised her hand and tossed out a piece of animal skin. Songwon caught the animal skin. It was soft yet extremely tough, resembling the hide of some high-level demon beast. The animal skin was primitive, and the writing on it was ancient. This was indeed an ancient recipe, not something Rong Jingyun had fabricated out of thin air. According to the records of the ancient recipe, the obstruction-breaking pill indeed existed. And what Rong Jingyun said was not mere nonsense. Songwon took out a blank jade slip and copied down the contents of the ancient recipe. Then, he returned the ancient recipe to Rong Jingyun. Songwon said, "I have some doubts in my heart, and I hope Elder Rong can enlighten. Elder Hung is not your blood relative. Yet can he still be considered a beloved and close person?" Rong Jingyun replied, "Elder Hung and I have been companions for over 60 years. How can he not be considered a beloved and close person?" The obstruction-breaking pill helps cultivators break through their inner demons. As long as you genuinely believe this person is your beloved, you can use him for pill refinement. When I first obtained the ancient recipe, I had no intention of using him to refine the pill. Unfortunately, he actually betrayed me multiple times and sought pleasures with outsiders behind my back. There was even a lowly loose cultivator who bore him an illegitimate child at that time. I forgave him, thinking it was just a moment of folly, and took that child in, treating him as my own. But I never expected that 2 years later, he would find a new mistress. As a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator and the elder of the Beast Control sect, how could I endure such humiliation? To use him for pill refinement is not a matter of my ruthlessness. It's he who betrayed me first. As Rong Jingyun spoke, her expression was fierce. It was as if she were venting her dissatisfaction, or perhaps trying to justify her cruel actions. "Is Hung Juanxia not your biological child?" Songwon asked. Rong Jingyun shook her head, her expression somewhat deranged. "No, he is the child of his mistress. This works out perfectly. I have 2 sets of materials, so I still have one more chance to make mistakes." Songwon cupped his hands. "Thank you, Elder Rong, for clearing my doubts." Rong Jingyun suddenly smiled faintly. "Elder Wu, do you think I am a heartless and cruel person, willing to resort to any means to achieve my goals?" Songwon shook his head. his face sincere. I do not think so. On the contrary, Elder Rong's determination makes you a true cultivator. To achieve longevity, you can sacrifice everything. I admire that very much. Rong Jingyun was momentarily taken aback, clearly not expecting Songwen to say such words. Elder Wu, do you really think that way? Songwen nodded. Absolutely. There is no falsehood in my words. A glimmer of color flickered in Rong Jingyun's eyes. It was as if she had found a kindred spirit. Chapter 343. Songwen and Rong Jingyun each swore a soul oath. Songwen will not reveal that Rong Jingyun had turned her husband into a living corpse or the matter regarding the obstruction-breaking pill. Rong Jingyun will not disclose anything about Songwen's cultivation strength or the matters related to the cold pool cave. Then, under Rong Jingyun's guidance, the two arrived at an underwater channel they had previously passed through. Rong Jingyun pointed to a dark channel with surging rapids. Follow this channel straight ahead for over 100 meters, and you will reach the cold pool cave. As she spoke, Rong Jingyun handed Songwen a jade slip. This jade slip contains a route map I drew from memory. If you encounter any forks, you can follow the paths on the map. Songwen accepted the jade slip. Thank you. Rong Jingyun replied. Elder Wu, the stinging mother beast is very powerful. Even with the three of us working together, we couldn't defeat it. Are you really confident that you can kill this beast? The yin-yang blood weeping branch is precious, but it's not exclusive to that cave. We could work together to search in the underground river. Perhaps we could find a couple of plants without taking risks. Songwen said, Thank you for your kindness, Elder Rong, but I still want to give it a try. Even if I'm not the stinging mother beast's match, I should still be able to protect myself. Faculty Rong Jingyun said, Then I wish you success. You and I have been through together. If we meet again in the secret realm and I am in trouble, I hope Elder Wu won't hesitate to lend a hand. Songwen replied, Elder Rong, rest assured, as long as it doesn't endanger my safety, I will certainly help. If I run into trouble, I hope Elder Rong will also assist me. Rong Jingyun smiled, of course. After bidding farewell, Songwen turned and dived into the dark underwater channel. Rong Jingyun turned and returned to the cave where she had killed the burrowing beast. She was seriously injured and this place was just right for healing underwater. Songwen swam cautiously in the dark channel. Rong Jingyun had mentioned that she had encountered 3 underwater demon beasts in the channel. Fortunately, Songwen's luck was good. He only encountered a second-tier early-stage fish demon. He released all his cultivation aura without reservation as the powerful aura of a late Foundation establishment cultivator spread out. It startled the fish demon, causing it to retreat in battle with demon beasts underwater. The blood flowing from the beast could easily attract other water-dwelling demons. If unnecessary, Songwen did not want to engage in combat with demon beasts in the water. Half an hour later, Songwen was less than 100 meters away from the cold pool cave. The stinging mother beast's tentacles could stretch 3 to 4 meters long and were transparent, making them difficult to detect, so Songwen had to be extra cautious. With 6 sacred goo, he slowly explored the channel, almost inch by inch, ensuring that the stinging mother beast's tentacles had not extended into the dark channel. Fortunately, as the sacred goo emerged from the channel and entered the cold pool cave, they did not find any traces of the stinging mother beast. Songwen retracted his aura and slowly swam upstream to avoid alerting the stinging mother beast. The dark channel was narrow and located underwater, making it difficult for Songwen to use many of his methods. Fighting the stinging mother beast underwater was unwise. Following the channel into the cave, Songwen emerged from the water and slowly climbed onto the riverbank, relying on the memories he had gained from Jia Hui's brain, and with the 6 sacred goo clearing a path around him, Songwen felt his way through the darkness, gradually approaching the location of the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. The cave was rugged and uneven, with numerous stalagmites and pits, so to avoid alarming the stinging mother beast, Songwen did not use any spiritual energy. Stepping quietly and slowly, moving with caution, after about a cup of tea's time, Songwen finally arrived at a spot only a few meters away from the yin-yang blood-weeping branch. According to the information relayed by the sacred goo, there was indeed a 500-year-old yin-yang blood-weeping branch growing amidst a cluster of stalagmites. However, the sacred goo still had not discovered any traces of the stinging mother beast, uncertain of the stinging mother beast's location. Songwon decided not to wait any longer. He instructed two sacred gu to quietly approach, preparing to steal the Inyang blood-weeping branch without alarming the stinging mother beast, as the sacred gu were about 3 meters away from the Inyang blood. Weeping branch, a long, slender tentacle suddenly shot out from the water and fiercely struck towards the two sacred gu. The tentacle moved at incredible speed, like a long whip, accompanied by a sharp whistle as it sliced through the air. The sacred gu dared not confront it head-on. Retreating was already too late, so they quickly darted downward toward the ground. The cave floor was littered with numerous pits of varying sizes, perfectly suitable for dodging the tentacle's attack. Bang! The tentacle struck the ground violently, stones flew everywhere, a large number of stalagmites were smashed and broken. The ground was also caved in from the impact. The two sacred gu quickly hid in the crevices of the rocks, narrowly avoiding the stinging mother beast's full-force attack. A mile away, Songwon witnessed this and no longer concealed his presence. Since the attempt to steal the Inyang blood-weeping branch had failed, he had no choice but to launch a strong offensive too. Ghosts and 3 corpses appeared beside Songwon. The silver corpse, with its rough skin and thick flesh, took the lead. Following closely behind were 2 peak second-tier bronze corpses. The Ghost King wielded a ghostly blade, following behind the 2 bronze corpses. The red-haired ghost general was the weakest among them. He held an 8 banner in soul flag and brought up the rear. The silver corpse was the first to engage with the stinging mother beast. One of the 8 tentacles of the stinging mother beast lashed out at the silver corpse. The silver corpse not only did not get knocked away but also took advantage of the situation to wrap its arms around the slippery tentacle as the tentacle attempted to entangle the silver corpse. The silver corpse grabbed down with one claw, severing the excess tentacles and leaving only the part it held. The silver corpse pulled on the tentacle, stepping back, trying to drag the stinging mother beast out of the river. It was immensely strong, crushing the rocky ground with each step. The long tentacle was stretched taut, seeming as if it could snap at any moment. The stinging mother beast was a water-type demon beast. It could exert its greatest power in the water. It was unwilling to be easily dragged out of the water. Its other 7 tentacles lashed out towards the silver corpse. The 2 bronze corpses guarded the silver corpse's flanks, blocking the incoming tentacles. The Ghost King protected the left side of the silver corpse, constantly swinging his ghostly sword. Every tentacle that struck was cut down by the Ghost King. 3 of the stinging mother beast's tentacles, continuously hacked at by the Ghost King, were repeatedly severed from their original 3-meter length, leaving only a meter remaining. Gradually, the stinging mother beast's massive body, hidden beneath the river water, was dragged to the surface and arrived at the riverbank. Perhaps sensing the imminent danger, the stinging mother beast severed one of its tentacles to survive, tearing away the tentacle that the silver corpse had grabbed. With all its strength pulling forward on the tentacle, the silver corpse suddenly felt no resistance and lost its balance, rolling out like a tumbling gourd. As the stinging mother beast shifted its body, it immediately attempted to escape back into the water. Songwon, who had been waiting patiently to the side, would not let it have its way. A silver bolt of lightning, as thick as a water bucket, descended from the sky. Since obtaining the soul-cleaving blade, he had never used it, but now, with a flash of cold light, it shot out. Boom! The thunder struck first, hitting the stinging mother beast. The blinding lightning illuminated everything in the darkness of the cave. The stinging mother beast's skin tore open, its flesh splattered everywhere. The lightning ravaged its body, slowing its movements as it tried to escape into the water. Suddenly, the cold light appeared. The soul-cleaving blade surged forward. Just as it was about to pierce the stinging mother beast's body, a scarred tentacle blocked the attack. This tentacle was nearly severed at the root, but the stinging mother beast managed to avoid the fate of being disemboweled. Chapter 344. The stinging mother beast had just blocked the attack of the soul-cleaving blade and had no time to catch its breath. The Ghost King charged in with his sword drawn. On the giant sword, a chilling ghostly aura surged, like the deathly energy spewing forth from hell. The stinging mother beast's tentacles danced wildly, whipping up a tempest as they struck down towards the Ghost King. In an instant, it moved its body, attempting to retreat into the river. Bang, bang. 2 crashing sounds rang out as the 2 bronze corpses arrived. Each of them ensnared a tentacle, their claws tearing madly. A silver shadow flashed by, taking advantage of the 2 corpses and a ghost to draw the stinging mother beast's attention, and the silver corpse charged towards the stinging mother beast. It came like a furious beast running at high speed, directly colliding with the stinging mother beast's towering body. What followed was an extremely brutal close-quarters brawl. The attacks from the three corpses and the ghost fell upon the stinging mother beast like a torrential storm. Flesh and chunks of meat flew everywhere. In the end, the stinging mother beast could not escape back into the river, under the siege of the three corpses and the ghost. Its body was shattered into pieces, turning into a pile of flesh. Six sacred goo pounced in, feasting eagerly. The blood and flesh of the demon beast were a delicacy for them. Amidst the shattered innards, Song Won discovered a broken skeleton. On one of the finger bones of the skeleton was a storage ring. Song Won raised his hand. Drawing the storage ring into his possession, he probed inside with his spiritual sense and found it was a storage ring of the ascetic type, TLN. The term used here is jiesa, literally translates to abstain from color, with often implying lust or desires. This type of storage ring likely carries connotations of discipline or restraint, possibly implying it was made by a sect or individual who practices abstinence from worldly desires or pleasures, especially related to lust or sensual indulgence. Inside, he discovered a jade vial containing 10,000-year-old spirit liquid. The storage ring also contained a number of Buddhist and Taoist spells and spirit tools. Buddhist and Taoist spells required a Buddhist nature to unleash their true power, making them unsuitable for Song Won to cultivate. The Buddhist and Taoist spirit tools could be barely operated after being reforged, but Song Won did not lack spirit tools and did not intend to waste energy and spirit materials finding someone to reforge them. After quickly taking inventory of the storage ring, Song Won turned to pull out the Inyang blood weeping branch. He arrived at the side of the cold pool. The cold pool was quite extraordinary. Merely standing at its edge sent a bone-chilling cold sweeping over him. Song Won couldn't help but feel curious about what could have created this cold pool. The memories of Jiehui and the descriptions from Rong Jingyun indicated that there were no demon beasts lurking in the depths of the cold pool. Delving deep into the cold pool posed no safety concerns. Song Won retracted the ghost general and the two bronze corpses, leaving the ghost king and the Yin corpse to protect him while he explored the cold pool. When he summoned the sacred goo, he found that the 6 insects had already gorged themselves and were somewhat reluctant to leave. The stinging mother beast's body was powerful and contained rich spiritual energy. The 6 insects had only eaten a small portion of it and were already full. They were unwilling to abandon the remaining stinging mother beast's corpse. Song Won took out an idle storage ring and began collecting the scattered remnants of the stinging mother beast's body. Only then did the 6 insects obediently return to Song Won's body. Splash, splash. 2 sounds like water echoed. The silver corpse and Song Won jumped into the cold pool, one after the other. The ghost king followed last, entering the water without a sound. As if seamlessly merging into the water of the cold pool was ice cold to the bone. However, it had little effect on the silver corpse and the ghost king. As the pool water coursed over his body, Song Won felt as if dozens of sharp little blades were continuously slicing at him, as if he would be cut to pieces. Song Won operated the 10,000 poisons body and activated the corpse king blood refining art, transforming into a zombie form to barely resist the biting cold. 1 corpse, 1 person, and 1 ghost sank 10 miles underwater, reaching the bottom of the cold pool. The rocks at the depths of the cold pool, long assaulted by the extreme cold, had become somewhat extraordinary, faintly gleaming with a metallic luster. The cold pool formed a shape, and Song Won slowly searched in the horizontal passage at the deepest point. As he walked to the middle of the horizontal passage, he could clearly sense that the cold here was even more intense. After passing through the middle section, the cold began to slowly weaken again. Song Won retreated to the middle of the passage and started to search carefully, inch by inch. Finally, he discovered that the cold at a certain corner at the bottom of the passage was the strongest point in the entire cold pool. Song Won raised his claw and unleashed the ghostly claw, which he hadn't used in a long time. A spark ignited in the depths of the cold pool. The hardness of the rock exceeded Song Won's expectations with all his strength. He clawed at the rock but only left a scratch less than 3 inches deep. A sharp pain surged through his palm, and Song Won couldn't help but shake his hand. The extreme cold at the bottom of the cold pool brought him a feeling akin to his bones freezing. Coupled with the rebound force from the rock, it actually injured his hand. Songwen glanced at the silver corpse beside him and couldn't help but curse himself for being foolish. Instead of using the bronze-skinned, iron-boned, pain-free silver corpse, he had tried it himself, simply asking for trouble. Songwen commanded the silver corpse to start digging into the rocky ground. The silver corpse's body was far stronger than Songwen's. It was much easier for it to excavate. The rock-hard rocks were continuously dug out by the silver corpse's sharp claws. As the silver corpse kept digging, the rocks below became increasingly hard, and the cold it released became more powerful. Before long, a vertical shaft 3 zhang deep was excavated by the silver corpse. Bang! With the silver corpse's claws sinking into the rock once more, the stone beneath it suddenly cracked. The cracked rock, along with the silver corpse, fell downwards. A deep, dark opening appeared. A greenish light shone from the entrance of the cave. The water of the cold pool quickly rushed into the opening below. Songwen jumped into the vertical shaft, carried by the icy current towards the opening below. Below was a cave that was less than half an acre in size. The ground and rock walls of the cave were very flat, making it clear that it was a man-made structure. In other words, this was an artificial stone chamber. At the center of the stone chamber stood a stone platform about a yard high. On the stone platform, there was an oil lamp the size of a large bowl. Within the oil lamp, a cluster of green flames danced constantly. As soon as he entered the stone chamber, Songwen felt a piercing coldness greet him. This cold was several times worse than the chill in the cold pool. Moreover, within this coldness was a strong aura of yin and evil. At this moment, he felt the circulation of his spiritual energy become sluggish. It was as if this coldness could freeze his spiritual energy. Songwen exerted all his strength to circulate his spiritual energy to counteract the cold that was invading his body. He flipped his palm, and a bright red spirit herb appeared in his hand. This spirit herb was called soul-burning grass, which carried intense fire poison. Consuming it felt like being burned by a raging fire. Those with insufficient cultivation who mistakenly consumed it might be consumed by the fire poison and turned to ashes. The soul-burning grass was what Songwen used to cultivate the 10,000 poisons. Body. Songwen opened his mouth and swallowed the soul-burning grass. A burning pain surged from his abdomen. Then, like a tidal wave, it quickly swept through Songwen's entire body. After half a stick of incense, Songwen had refined most of the poison from the soul-burning grass. The cold within him was also partially dispelled. Chapter 345. Songwen endured the raging fire poison within him and the extreme cold from the outside. A clash of ice and fire that brought immense pain. He began to examine the stone chamber. The entire stone chamber was completely sealed with no visible doors or openings. On the floor of the stone chamber, there was a formation for gathering spiritual energy. This formation, inscribed many years ago, was still functioning, continuously drawing in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It supplied the green flame on the high platform, allowing it to burn continuously. The water from the cold pool above continued to flow in. The water inside the stone chamber had already risen to Songwen's waist. Moving in the water was inconvenient, so at Songwen's command, the silver corpse returned to the cold pool above, moved a large stone, and blocked the entrance. Songwen looked at the green flame in the oil lamp, feeling a surge of desire. The cold emitted by the green flame made it clear that this flame was no ordinary fire. The oil lamp containing the green flame was a top-grade spiritual artifact. As long as he could refine it, he could seal the green flame within and store it in his storage ring to take it with him. The process of refining the oil lamp was not easy, and Songwen suffered greatly while resisting the extreme cold. He also channeled his spiritual power to refine the oil lamp. Time slowly passed. 10 days later, Songwen had turned a shade of crimson. Long exposure to extreme cold had caused some degree of necrosis in his body. Many areas were frostbitten and cracked. Blood flowed out and was quickly frozen again. This made Songwen's appearance look extremely terrifying. However, the intense pain endured over these 10 days was worth it, as he had successfully refined the oil lamp. Songwen activated the oil lamp, which immediately shimmered with a dark light. The dark light surged toward the lamp base where the green flame resided, gathering together. After a moment, a black lampshade appeared, enveloping the lamp base and trapping The green flame within, in an instant, the continuous release of coldness abruptly disappeared. With the oil lamp stored in his storage ring, the absence of the green flame's light plunged the stone chamber into darkness. Songwon summoned a fireball the size of a wash basin, using its light to carefully observe the stone chamber. Previously, when he had roughly scanned the stone chamber, he noticed there were no doors. In a completely sealed space, the only way in and out would be through a teleportation array. However, Songwon had not discovered any signs of a teleportation array. This indicated that the stone chamber must have an exit. He just hadn't noticed it. The reason Songwon had spent effort searching for a door was that in the cold pool above the stone chamber, there were branches of yin-yang blood weeping growing. Therefore, if a similar environment existed outside the door of the stone chamber, it was very likely to nurture the yin-yang blood weeping branches. After more than half a quarter of an hour of careful searching, Songwon finally found a place on the eastern floor of the stone chamber that seemed to resemble a door. The stone chamber was carved out of a solid piece of rock. Thus, the floor, surrounding walls, and ceiling of the stone chamber were all a single massive rock, with no visible seams. Only at this spot was there a square slab of rock. In general, stone doors in houses are usually located in the surrounding walls, and it would be unusual to have a door set into the floor. The slab fit perfectly with the surrounding ground. Inside the stone chamber, there was still water from the cold pool about 3 zhang deep. This was why Songwon hadn't initially noticed the suspicious slab that looked like a door. Next to the stone door, Songwon searched for a slightly raised mechanism. He attempted to press it down. This stone chamber had been unopened for many years, and he couldn't be sure whether the mechanism was still functional. Click. A muffled sound of a mechanism came from the rock layers below the ground. Then, the sound of the massive stone sliding began. The square stone on the ground started to slowly sink. The speed of the stone's descent gradually increased. In the end, it was completely weightless, plummeting downwards. After a few breaths, boom. The sound of the massive stone hitting the ground echoed. Songwon stood at the entrance, looking down into the dark pit below. What caught his eye was a square passageway about 5 zhang deep. Further down, there was just emptiness. Below the stone chamber, there was a larger cave. He raised his hand and waved. A fireball shot toward the entrance of the cave. As it entered the lower cave, the fireball suddenly exploded, transforming into a shower of sparks that fell everywhere. In the upper stone chamber, Songwon's line of sight was obstructed, making it impossible to see the full scope of the lower cave, but he could roughly deduce that the lower cave was quite spacious. He could faintly see shimmering reflections of water. There should be a river or lake within the lower cave. Songwon released the sacred goo and entered the lower cave. After confirming that there was no danger near the exit, Songwon flew into the passageway. Entering the cave below, he raised his hand again, sending several more fireballs flying in different directions. This time, Songwon was able to see the entire layout of the cave. The cave was vast, at least several dozen zhang wide. In the center of the cave, there was an underground lake about 10 zhang in diameter. Songwon was positioned at the edge of the lake, with some scattered stones beneath him. In the cave, Songwon had not yet discovered any presence of other cultivators. He lowered himself and landed by the lake. The silver corpse and the Ghost King flanked him on either side. Due to the extreme cold released by the green flames in the upper stone chamber over the years, the temperature inside the cave was very low. The environment in this cave was very similar to the previous cave where the yin-yang blood weeping branches grew. Songwon decided to carefully explore this cave. The lake, about 10 zhang 33 m in diameter, had a shoreline of only around 30 zhang. Even while flying and exploring, it didn't take half an incense stick's worth of time for Songwon to circle halfway around the shoreline. Suddenly, Songwon noticed fresh signs of movement on the stony beach ahead, as if someone had stepped on the stones. This place had been untouched for years, with chaotic piles of stones stacked together, forming unique imprints over time. Under these circumstances, if a few stones suddenly moved, the traces left behind would be quite clear and noticeable. The marks were fresh and must have been left in the past few days. Could it be that someone has already arrived here ahead of me? Songwon felt a surge of disappointment. Even if this place had yin-yang blood weeping branches, they were likely taken long ago. Holding on to a last glimmer of hope, Songwon continued to explore along the lake. After searching for a little while longer, Songwon noticed that about 3 zhang from the lakeshore there was a stone forest. Inside the cave it was too dark and the distance to the stone forest was not close, so Songwon couldn't see clearly. With a thought, he summoned a fireball. The fireball exploded above the stone forest. The stone forest was about several zhang wide, filled with standing stones of varying heights. The taller stones exceeded 10 zhang, while the shorter ones were less than 2 feet. Most of the standing stones were extremely thick, with smooth surfaces. It seemed as if something had been rubbing against these standing stones for many years. The stones gave off a slippery, oily sensation. Not long before, there must have been a battle near the stone forest. The aftermath of the battle had broken many of the standing stones. The broken edges of the stones were still quite fresh. Suddenly, a massive white shadow burst forth from within the stone forest. Chapter 346. This was a creature as thick as a water barrel, covered in gray scales, resembling a giant python but without any scales. The creature had no eyes, and on its wide, gigantic mouth there were dozens of small holes. These holes continuously expanded and contracted as if sensing the surrounding aura. The beast opened its mouth wide and extended a long scarlet tongue covered in barbs. Thick, foul-smelling liquid dripped from its tongue. This creature was called the abyss python, a being that dwelled underground year-round. Without sight, it was disturbed by the scattered sparks, appearing extremely angry as it roamed through the stone forest. After a while, the abyss python found nothing and gradually calmed down, its massive form blending into the stone forest. In the distance, by the lakeshore, Songwon saw this scene and couldn't help but become intrigued by the stone forest. Wherever rare spiritual herbs grow, there are usually powerful demon beasts lurking. This abyss python was estimated to be at the peak of the 2nd tier within the Kanglin's secret realm. Aside from the 2 golden core stage demon beasts, it was one of the top existences. There must be spiritual herbs growing near its lair. Songwon was certain that in the past few days, some cultivators had come here and fought with the abyss python. But the abyss python showed no obvious injuries. It was highly likely that the cultivators had been repelled by the abyss python. This meant that the spiritual herbs might not have been harvested yet. Songwon put away the silver corpse and ghost king. Allowing the sacred goo to lead the way, he suppressed his aura and slowly approached the stone forest. As soon as he got close to the stone forest, a pungent stench assaulted him. Songwon silently entered the stone forest and moved slowly. With the presence of the sacred goo, his spiritual sense could detect the surroundings within a radius of about 4 zhang 13 m. Although this distance was not far, at least he didn't have to worry about the abyss python suddenly launching a surprise attack on him. As he delved deeper into the stone forest, the foul stench intensified, making him want to gag. This was just indicative that he was moving in the right direction. He was approaching the lair of the abyss python. This foul odor came from the viscous slime dripping from the abyss python's mouth. It was a means the abyss python used to mark its territory, which could deter some foreign demon beasts. This was to prevent other beasts from intruding into its lair while it was out hunting. After walking through the stone forest for about a quarter of an hour, a cave opening several zhang wide appeared in Songwen's perception. A strong, foul odor was emanating from the cave entrance. This underground cave should be the lair of the abyss python. Songwen carefully circled around the lair, searching the area. Though he was not afraid of the abyss python, the absence of spiritual herbs meant that it would be unwise to engage in a reckless battle with it. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Songwen immediately became alert, realizing in his heart that the abyss python had sensed his presence and was swiftly charging out from its underground lair. Since he had already been exposed, Songwen could only face the enemy. He raised his hand and waved, and the silver corpse suddenly appeared at the cave entrance. The silver corpse was enveloped in a malevolent aura, with claws like knives and fangs like swords. It was poised and ready, waiting for the abyss python to appear so it could deliver a fatal strike. However, what the silver corpse awaited was a long, scarlet tongue covered in barbs. The tongue was as hard as iron, swinging like a massive battering ram, charging toward the silver corpse with unstoppable force. The silver corpse nimbly sidestepped, avoiding the hardest tip of the tongue. Then it raised its sharp claws and struck at the side of the long tongue. Dark claw light flashed by. Blood sprayed from the long tongue, drenching the silver corpse. However, the tongue was not severed. It had only been opened with a 3-foot-long gash. The abyss python, in pain, was furious. Its massive body suddenly surged out from the lair. Before its body completely emerged from the lair, it smashed down like a giant Pendulum onto the silver corpse. The silver corpse showed no fear and charged straight up against the massive snake body that was crashing down. Bang. The silver corpse was struck down to the ground by the snake body. Then the snake body crashed down heavily onto the silver corpse. Dust flew everywhere, and stones scattered chaotically. The abyss python, pressing down on the silver corpse, suddenly shook its entire body. It lifted its body off the ground and flailed around in the air. Before anyone could react, the silver corpse's claws had pierced through the abyss python's abdomen. Half of the silver corpse had already drilled into the abyss python's body. Seeing that the abyss python was about to perish at the hands of the silver corpse, the ground shook violently once. More, another long, scarlet tongue shot out from the snake's den, rapidly curling toward the silver corpse. The long tongue wrapped around the silver corpse's legs, pulling it out from the injured abyss python's belly. Then, the tongue quickly coiled around the silver corpse, tightening its grip. The barbs on it acted like sharp spikes, continuously cutting into the silver corpse's flesh with its hands and legs bound. The silver corpse made several attempts to break free but couldn't escape. It opened its mouth wide, revealing nearly 3-inch-long fangs, and bit down on the long tongue with a strong pull. Chunks of flesh were torn off in just a few bites. The silver corpse bit off half of the long tongue. The abyss python felt the pain and had no choice but to release the silver corpse. Meanwhile, Song 1, who was searching for the traces of spiritual herbs in the stone forest, was surprised to find that there were actually 2 abyss pythons in the snake's den. He simply summoned the Ghost King to join the silver corpse in battle. Moments later, after searching the stone forest in vain, Song 1 returned to the snake's den entrance. The silver corpse and the Ghost King had already slain the 2 abyss pythons around the snake den. The ground was covered in chunks of flesh and blood. Song 1 collected the flesh to feed the sacred Gus. He stepped over the blood, letting the sacred Gus lead the way, and entered the snake's den. Since there were no spiritual herbs in the stone forest, he had to hope for them in the snake's den. The snake den was extremely deep and chaotic, with many winding paths. Soon, Song 1 reached the deepest part of the snake den. It was a lair several mu in size. 1 mu 666.7 m2. In one corner of the lair, there were 4 snake eggs, each the size of a plate. The 6 sacred Gus, seeing the snake eggs, rushed in like mice falling into a grain bin. Before Song 1 could approach to check, they swarmed over, biting through the shells and starting to feed. In another corner of the lair, there was a small stream flowing gently. Beside the stream, 3 tall spiritual herbs were growing. The leaves of the spiritual herbs were black and gray, precisely the yin-yang blood weeping branch. The 3 yin-yang blood weeping branches had 20, 12, and 4 leaves, respectively. This indicated that the ages of the 3 yin-yang blood weeping branches were 400 years, 240 years, and 80 years. The yin-yang blood weeping branches needed to be over 100 years old to be used in medicine to refine golden core pills. Song 1 took out 3 jade boxes, intending to harvest all 3 yin-yang blood weeping branches. Suddenly, an unexpected change occurred. A figure shrouded in lightning burst into the lair. The newcomer moved incredibly fast, heading straight for the 3 yin-yang blood weeping branches. Song 1's expression turned cold. Someone had hidden in the shadows, and he hadn't noticed a thing. Seeing the yin-yang blood weeping branches within reach, someone wanted to take advantage of the situation and reap the benefits without effort. Such shameless behavior was something he had done himself many times before. However, there was a difference between people. Song 1 would only take action when he was fully confident. The person in front of him was merely a jumping clown. Glancing over at the 6 sacred Gus still devouring the abyss pythons, Song 1 realized that if it weren't for their gluttony, this person would have intruded deeper into the snake's den without being discovered. Chapter 347. With a thought from Song 1, the silver corpse and the Ghost King positioned themselves in front of the intruder. The silver corpse emanated an overwhelming aura of death. The Ghost King exuded a dense and sinister energy. Upon seeing this, the intruder's expression changed drastically. With a quick turn, he darted toward the exit of the lair. However, Song 1's speed was even faster. In a flash of lightning, Song 1 positioned himself at the exit of the lair. Since my friend Lei has arrived, why the rush to leave? Songwen said with a smile. The intruder was none other than Lei Yuhua, who stared at Songwon with apprehension. At that moment, he was on guard against the Ghost King and the silver corpse behind him. He had intended to reach this cave before Songwon. After searching the entire cave, Lei Yuhua discovered that only in the stone forest could there be the Yin-Yang blood weeping branch. Once he entered the stone forest, he encountered two abyss pythons. The abyss pythons were powerful. Lei Yuhua was no match for them in a direct confrontation, relying on his speed. He managed to escape the two abyss pythons and disengaged from battle afterward. He hid in the shadows, pondering a strategy to slay the snakes. At that moment, Songwen entered the cave from the upper stone chamber. Songwen made quite a commotion as he entered the cave first. A massive stone door crashed down, followed by Songwen casting fireballs multiple times. It was hard for Lei Yuhua not to notice him, so he concealed himself in the shadows, waiting for the chance to be the yellow sparrow. He thought that when Songwon was locked in a fierce battle with the abyss pythons, he could suddenly ambush them both and kill them. What he didn't expect was that Songwon had the silver corpse and the Ghost King assisting him, and within a very short time, he ended the battle. Lei Yuhua couldn't even find the opportunity to strike. After Songwen entered the snake den, Lei Yuhua approached the entrance. Since he was hiding at a distance, he hadn't witnessed Songwen slay the two abyss pythons, however, by relying on the residual auras of the silver corpse and the Ghost King. He determined that Songwon was a cultivator who could refine corpses and control spirits. As a member of the Lei family, Lei Yuhua primarily cultivated lightning techniques, and ordinary corpses and ghostly entities were not impressive in his eyes. Although Songwon had killed two abyss pythons, his strength was undoubtedly formidable. Yet, it was due to the might of the corpse and the ghost, and lightning techniques were precisely effective against evil entities. Thus, he followed Songwon into the snake den. However, when he faced the silver corpse and the Ghost King, he realized his ignorance. If he were to deal with either the silver corpse or the Ghost King alone, he could still manage one or two moves, but together, they left him with no chance of victory. My friend, considering I am a member of the Lei family, could you spare my life? Lei Yuhua pleaded. Being a member of the Lei family doesn't make you special enough to escape execution. Songwon replied with a cold smile. Friend, you misunderstand my intentions. Your talent in lightning techniques is rare. You must have practiced the 9 Great Thunder secret techniques. However, the Beastmaster sect only possesses the first 2 secret techniques. Once I advance to the Golden Core stage, I can obtain the 3rd Thunder technique from my family. I can make a soul oath. Once I acquire the 3rd Thunder technique, I will surely copy a version for you. Lei Yuhua said. Songwon shook his head. A mere 3rd Thunder technique isn't enough to trade for your life. Besides, what if you fail to advance? At this moment, Songwon already had the 3rd and 4th Thunder techniques, so he had no need to make a deal with Lei Yuhua. If you can't present any other bargaining chips, then prepare to die. The killing intent radiated from Songwon, and his spiritual power surged. The Silver Corpse and Ghost King also exuded a fierce killing aura as they charged forward. Lei Yuhua hurriedly activated his spiritual power and used the Thunder Escape technique to distance himself from the Silver Corpse and Ghost King. Songwon waved his hand, and the soul-cleaving blade shot out. Lei Yuhua quickly summoned a shield to block the attack of the soul-cleaving blade. At that moment, a massive surge of lightning erupted from within him. Thunderstorm technique. Right from the start, Lei Yuhua unleashed a desperate move. He knew that the longer the battle dragged on, the worse it would be for him. He had to give it his all to repel the Silver Corpse and the Ghost King quickly and escape the Abyss Python's lair to have any chance of survival. His internal spiritual power burned rapidly. Lightning poured out like a torrential storm, instantly enveloping an area of several dozen meters. For a moment, neither the Silver Corpse nor the Ghost King dared to approach. Looking at the rampaging lightning, Songwon couldn't help but smirk coldly, thinking of escaping. It wouldn't be that easy. He directed the soul-cleaving blade not at Lei Yuhua but toward the exit of the lair. The cave entrance collapsed, rocks falling and blocking the exit, with nowhere to run. Lei Yuhua was soon trapped, surrounded by one person, one corpse, and one ghost, and he perished in despair. After searching Lei Yuhua's soul, Song Wen didn't uncover any useful information, however. There was one thing that delighted him. In Lei Yuhua's memories, he had found a yin-yang blood weeping branch which he discovered by chance beside a dark river deep underground. Taking the storage ring into his hand, Song Wen probed with his spiritual sense and indeed found a jade box containing the yin-yang blood weeping branch. It was a 300-year-old yin-yang blood weeping branch, adding to the 3 unharvested yin-yang blood weeping branches in the abyss python's lair. Song Wen now possessed 5 of them, except for one that was less than 100 years old. The rest were all over 200 years old. Moreover, Lei Yuhua's storage ring also contained a vial of 10,000-year spirit liquid. With this, Song Wen already had 7 vials of 10,000-year spirit liquid each time the Kanglin's secret realm opened. There were a total of 12 vials of 10,000-year spirit liquid, and now over half had fallen into his hands. Placing his right hand on Lei Yuhua's corpse, Song Wen absorbed his essence, blood, and soul. Within the secret realm, he had absorbed the souls of several late-stage and peak-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. This brought him to the peak of Foundation establishment, giving him a sense of imminent breakthrough. However, it felt like there was an invisible barrier preventing him from crossing that final threshold. After destroying Lei Yuhua's corpse and erasing all traces, Song Wen instructed the sacred gust to monitor and keep watch in various parts of the stone forest. He then sat down to meditate and recover in the abyss python's lair. The spoils he obtained in this secret realm had already exceeded Song Wen's expectations. Although there were still nearly 10 days before the secret realm closed, he did not intend to continue searching for treasures. Song Wen spent 2 days recovering from the frostbite on his body, restoring himself to his previous condition. After that, he returned to the stone chamber above the cave, crossed the now-dried cold pond, and returned to the cave where the 10,000-year spirit liquid was stored. Passing through the intricately winding underground passages, Song Wen emerged from the mountain's interior and arrived at the foot of a high mountain. Looking up, he gazed at the mountain peak shrouded in mist. The secret realm exit was located in a stone chamber not far from the mountain's summit. At the moment the secret realm opened, the exit also appeared simultaneously. During the 1 month that the secret realm was open, anyone wishing to leave could do so at any time through the exit. Chapter 348. The mountain peak reaches a height of 100 feet, and the journey from the foot of the mountain to the summit is anything but peaceful. Various ferocious beasts lurk on the high mountain, posing constant dangers. Moreover, atop the peak, there is a double-winged white tiger in its final transformation stage. The exit of the secret realm is located within a stone hall. The stone hall is only a few dozen feet away from the white tiger's lair. And if the tiger is disturbed, it would be nearly impossible for anyone to survive and escape the secret realm. The mountain is dense with trees. Relying on his physical strength, Song Wen climbs nimbly through the thick forest. The sacred armor bug leads the way ahead, and if it detects any beast lairs, Song Wen keeps his distance, though the areas occupied by these beasts mostly have spiritual herbs growing, and while Song Wen does not lack for spirit stones, he isn't particularly interested in these herbs. Moving cautiously for almost half an hour, Song Wen ascends several dozen feet. The mountainside is shrouded in clouds and mist year-round. Standing at the foot of the mountain, one cannot discern its true face. When Song Wen climbs to the mountainside, he notices that as he ascends, the temperature gradually drops and vegetation becomes sparser. Near the peak, a thick layer of white snow covers everything, draping the landscape in silver. At a glance, it appears as a vast expanse of white. Song Wen initially thought that with more than 7 days remaining until the secret realm closed, it was unlikely anyone would arrive near the exit so early. However, things unfolded beyond his expectations. When he was still over 10 feet away from the stone hall that contained the exit, suddenly a violent fluctuation of spiritual power erupted from the mountain ahead. Someone was fighting. Immediately afterward, a tremendous roar echoed through the air. The thick white snow surged like waves in a storm, rolling and roaring as it cascaded down toward the foot of the mountain. The snow wave rose several dozen feet high. The splashing snowflakes blotted out the sun. A fierce wind swept through, churning the clouds and mist. Amidst the snow wave were countless stones and trees, charging downward with immense force. The deafening roar was thunderous. In that moment, it felt as though the entire secret realm was trembling. Songwen leapt into the air to evade the oncoming avalanche. He looked astonished. So close to the peak, who would dare to engage in such a fierce battle? Did they not fear disturbing the double-winged white tiger at the summit? Not only Songwen was disturbed by the avalanche, but many beasts were as well. Some weaker beasts were caught in the avalanche, shredded into a mist of blood that stained the white snow, only to be buried by even more snow in an instant. Meanwhile, some powerful beasts were forced to flee their lairs, moving far away to avoid the rushing avalanche roar. A thunderous tiger roar echoed from above. The double-winged white tiger had indeed been startled by the avalanche. It broke through the clouds and mist, as if awakened from a deep slumber. Its slightly hazy eyes were filled with fury. The white tiger arrived at the source of the avalanche, where several human cultivators were located. It opened its massive mouth and unleashed a thunderous roar. A torrent of fierce wind surged from its mouth. The wild wind swept through, and the clouds and mist churned violently. Several human cultivators were immediately caught in the gale, crashing down against the hard rocks below. The violent impact caused them to spit blood and become weakened, however, before they could regain their senses. The previous tiger roar triggered another avalanche. The white waves surged downward, roaring and charging forward, shaking the heavens and the earth. Blocking its path were various obstacles, be they hard rocks or small grass that grew in the cold. All of it was swept up, entangled within, and rushed downward. Several human cultivators were also not spared, caught in the snow wave and disappearing without a trace. The white tiger, seeing the few culprits who disturbed its deep slumber vanish in the snow wave, did not care whether they lived or died. It flapped its wings and suddenly soared into the sky, vanishing into the vast clouds. Before a sheer cliff on the mountainside, there was a relatively flat slope. This gentle slope had originally been covered by dense trees. At this moment, countless large trees had disappeared without a trace, leaving only a thick accumulation of white snow. In one corner of the snowy ground, something suddenly bulged. A head emerged from beneath the snow. It was Songwen. At the moment the white tiger appeared, he had immediately retracted all his aura and jumped into the snow wave. Then he summoned the Kuei in heavy water, transforming it into an egg shape that enveloped his entire body. As he was swept along by the snow wave, Songwen rolled like a rolling gourd, tumbling down for more than 30 feet on the mountainside before finally coming to a stop on this gentle slope. The continuous violent rolling, coupled with sharp rocks striking him from time to time, made Songwen's internal organs churn incessantly, leaving him dizzy and feeling unwell. Though he was in a sorry state, he had finally evaded the attention of the white tiger. Just as Songwen burrowed into the snow, at a distance of about a foot to his left, another figure also plunged into the snow. This person was dressed in a flowing pink gauze gown, her appearance beautiful and figure slender. However, at this moment, she looked slightly disheveled. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, and her hair was in disarray. The thin gauze gown was torn in multiple places, exposing scratched skin. This woman was Mu Yunshin. After crawling out of the snow, Mu Yunshin sat down heavily on the snow, her expression one of pain. After taking a pill, she noticed Songwen not far away. After a moment of daze, the look of pain on her face vanished without a trace, replaced by a deep sense of weakness and helplessness, making her appear pitiful. I am Mu Yunshin. I have seen Senior Brother from the Beastmaster sect. In my past life, we met 100 times only to brush past each other in this life. This is our third meeting. Surely it is fate from a previous life. I am severely injured and this place is fraught with danger. I wonder if Senior Brother could lower himself to protect me while I recuperate for a moment. Once I recover, I will definitely express my gratitude. As she spoke, she gently raised her delicate leg, adjusting the thin gauze on her thigh to reveal her long, snow-white leg. Cough, cough, cough. As if having said too much in one breath, which aggravated her injuries, Mu Yunshin suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, staining the snow beneath her. After spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, she looked up again, her eyes filled with emotion, gazing at Songwen with a hopeful expression. Songwen wore an indifferent expression. He raised his hand and waved, sending a sharp burst of energy shooting toward Mu Yunshin. Faced with the incoming energy, Mu Yunshin showed no intention to resist or evade, her expression one of despair, allowing the energy to strike her. Puff. The energy hit Mu Yunxin in the chest, sending her flying back a distance of 10 feet. She collapsed to the ground, spitting out a large amount of blood. "Senior brother, you have a heart of stone." Mu Yunxin's eyes were filled with tears, her face full of grievance as she looked at Song Wen as if gazing at a heartless man who had abandoned her. "Miss Mu, since we are old acquaintances, there is no need for you to act in front of me. The protective spirit armor on your chest is already exposed. That last burst of energy could not have injured you." Upon hearing this, Mu Yunxin looked down. At the white, plump area that was about to be exposed, a corner of the spirit armor was clearly visible. She pulled at her disheveled wrap to cover the armor. The look of pity on her face vanished in an instant. Her expression turned icy. "Humph. You unromantic blockhead, wasting my tears." "Tilin, you mean a fuang jigachat?" Chapter 349. "You neither attack me nor leave? What do you intend to do?" Mu Yunxin asked. Songwen replied, "I just wanted to ask Miss Mu about what treasure you all fought for on the mountain. How could you disregard the white tiger at the peak?" Mu Yunxin said, "Fellow Taoist, on what basis do you think I would tell you the truth?" "It seems Miss Mu does not understand her current situation." Songwen's voice turned cold, revealing strands of killing intent. Mu Yunxin's expression once again turned pitiful and helpless. "Senior brother, you want to harm me? How could you be so cruel? Seeking death?" Songwen felt his patience was nearly worn thin. Since the other party was unwilling to speak, he had no choice but to search her soul. A surge of lightning erupted from Songwen's body, and he suddenly transformed into an afterimage, darting towards Mu Yunxin. When Songwen was still half a mile away from Mu Yunxin, suddenly a sharp sword light shot down from the distant horizon, aiming directly at Songwen. The might of the sword light was formidable, a full power strike from a peak. Foundation Establishment Cultivator. Songwen opened his mouth and spat out the profound earth treasure pagoda, which materialized in mid-air, quickly enlarging to 3 feet in size to meet the sword light. Ding! A piercing sound rang out. The snow piles on the cliff collapsed again with a crash, cascading into the abyss below. After the profound earth treasure pagoda blocked the flying sword, Songwen halted his movement. No longer attacking Mu Yunxin, he looked up. Glancing toward the peak of the mountain top was shrouded in clouds and mist, appearing extremely tranquil. A towering figure flew out from below the cliff on a sword, landing beside Mu Yunxin. The newcomer was Xuegu from the Profound Heaven Sword Sect. The bearded man Songwen had met at the Hall of 10,000-Year Spirit Liquid. Seeing Xuegu appear, Songwen understood. Just now, Mu Yunxin's act of looking pitiful was not meant for him, it was for Xuegu. Mu Yunxin clearly had a way to secretly contact Xuegu. Earlier, her long-winded conversation with him was merely to buy time, waiting for Xuegu's arrival. "Miss Mu, are you all right?" Xuegu asked with a concerned expression. Mu Yunxin struggled to stand up but suddenly swayed and fell into Xuegu's arms. "Senior brother Xue, I was injured by the white tiger and caught in the avalanche. I barely escaped with my life. This senior brother from the Beastmaster sect wanted to take advantage of me and sought my life." Mu Yunxin nestled against Xuegu, her eyes brimming with tears. Xuegu held the beauty in his arms, softly comforting her. "Miss Mu, rest assured, with me, Xue, here, no one can harm you in the slightest." As if having suffered a great grievance, Mu Yunxin found a sense of reliance in Xuegu. She clutched his sturdy chest, her body trembling as she cried. Xuegu looked up, staring angrily at Songwen. "You vile person. Miss Mu is delicate and weak, yet you would take advantage of her plight to strike at her. You are simply not a man." Xuegu's aura was extremely fierce, his killing intent palpable. However, he showed no intention of making a move. He embraced Mu Yunxin's soft body, his hands occasionally groping her ample chest in a not so innocent manner. Mu Yunxin, with a look of grievance, now displayed a hint of shyness. "Senior brother Xue, aren't you going to avenge me? This place is too close to the mountain peak and the white tiger has just been disturbed. It's not wise to act," Xuegu said, while his hands continued to wander, refusing Mu Yunxin's request. Mu Yunxin shot Xuegu a glance, breaking free from his grasp. Silently cursing, "Men really only want to take advantage." She sat down cross-legged on the spot and began to meditate to heal her injuries. Seeing that the other party had no intention of making a move, Songwen turned to leave. Earlier, Mu Yunxin had been severely injured and alone, making it easy for him to strike her down with a lightning-fast attack. Now that Xuegu had arrived, with both Mu Yunxin and Xuegu being peak Foundation Establishment cultivators working together, it would be much more difficult for Songwen to kill them. If he wanted to, Eliminate them, it would definitely cause a commotion and attract the attention of the white tiger. Since the other party wasn't attacking, Songwon also didn't want to continue this badgering. At that moment, the snow nearby suddenly heaved up again. A bald monk crawled out from under the snow. The monk looked extremely miserable with several deep gashes on his face, covered in blood. However, his injuries were actually quite minor. The seemingly terrifying wounds had little impact on his combat strength. TSK, Master Jiaku, why do you look so tragic? Shuegu said, reveling in his misfortune. The monk, named Jiaku, looked at Shuegu and joined his hands together in a gesture of respect. Benefactor, can you see where my two companions from the mixed Yuan temple have gone? Shuegu replied, who knows where those two bald donkeys from your temple have run off to? Maybe they were buried under the white tiger's attack or the avalanche. I also don't know the whereabouts of my 3 fellow disciples from the Profound Heaven Sword sect and the Hehuan sect. This is all your fault, you bald donkey. You forced the issue with Miss Mu over the illusory spirit grass, triggering the avalanche and attracting the white tiger. The illusory spirit grass is a 3rd-tier spirit herb that, when consumed, enhances one's spiritual sense and the power of illusion spells. As a disciple of the Hehuan sect, it wasn't surprising that Mu Yunshin wanted the illusory spirit grass, as many of her sect members were skilled in illusion techniques. However, it was quite intriguing that Jiaku, as a monk of the mixed Yuan temple, would go far as to disturb the white tiger and engage in a fierce battle over a single illusory spirit grass. Jiaku said, Shui benefactor, for us cultivators it is common to engage in conflict over opportunities. Moreover, the illusory spirit grass has already fallen into Miss Mu's hands. Why do you insist on clinging to this matter? Right now, the white tiger is disturbed and it won't be easy to safely exit the secret realm. We should set aside our grievances and work together to overcome this crisis. Shuegu nodded and responded, you bald donkey do have a point. Given the current situation, neither of us dares to act, so cooperation is indeed a feasible option. Then he turned to Songwon and asked, friend from the Beastmaster sect, I see that your strength is not weak. Are you willing to cooperate with us? Songwon frowned slightly. Used to acting alone, he was reluctant to team up with others. However, the current situation indeed favored cooperation. If they truly encountered the white tiger, he could use his speed advantage to leave everyone behind, letting them serve as a distraction while he made his escape. Just as Songwon was deep in thought, another figure flew out from below the cliff. It was Rong Jingyun. Elder Wu, what a surprise to see you here. Seeing Songwon, Rong Jingyun's face lit up with joy. Elder Rong, I didn't expect to run into you here. There's still some time before the secret realm closes. Why not continue exploring to find spirit items? Songwon asked, this trip to the secret realm has been fraught with difficulties, so I wanted to exit after my injuries healed. Rong Jingyun replied, earlier I was at the foot of the mountain when I saw the sudden avalanche, so I came up to check. I didn't expect to encounter Elder Wu here, she said, not wanting to go into detail about her reasons for leaving the secret realm, responding vaguely. Chapter 350. Fellow Taoist, just in time, the white tiger has been disturbed. How about we 3 join forces to leave the secret realm together? Shuegu said to Rong Jingyun. Rong Jingyun looked surprised. The white tiger has been disturbed? Then Shuegu briefly recounted the events leading up to the situation. Hearing this, Rong Jingyun frowned deeply. The white tiger's den is at the mountaintop and the exit stone hall is still several miles away. If we are careful when passing through the exit, we shouldn't disturb the white tiger, right? Shuegu replied, I'm afraid it won't be as easy as you think. Why do you say that? Rong Jingyun asked. The white tiger has a very high level of intelligence. If we disturb it, it likely won't let us cultivators leave the secret realm safely, Shuegu said, looking worriedly at the mountaintop. Mu Yunshin, who had been sitting nearby and refining her pills, suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Rong Jingyun. Master Rong, the situation is critical. Our cooperation is the best strategy. Rong Jingyun revealed a faint smile. I didn't expect Miss Mu to be here as well. From the way the two spoke and addressed each other, it was evident they were old acquaintances. Rong Jingyun then turned to Songwon, her expression questioning. Compared to Mu Yunshin and the others, she trusted Songwon more. If she had to travel with someone, she would naturally prefer Songwon to accompany her. Songwon slightly nodded. Shuegu's words indeed held some truth. The danger of acting alone was significantly higher than that of traveling with a group. Receiving Songwon's agreement, Rong Jingyun said to Shuegu, Elder Wu and I are willing to join you. That's excellent, Shuegu replied. He then shifted the topic and continued. However, during the recent avalanche, there were traces of disciples from the profound Heaven Sword sect, the Hehuan sect, and T-Mixed Origin Temple. You all should wait here for a moment. Master Jieku and I will go look for our fellow disciples. Understood? Rong Jingyun replied. Shuegu and Jieku searched around the cliff and beneath it for signs of their companions. As for whether they were genuinely searching for their fellow disciples or coveting their possessions, that remained unclear. About half an hour later, Jieku returned, his face filled with grief and despair. It appeared he had not found any trace of his companions. A moment later, Shuegu appeared at the edge of the cliff, holding a severed head. The head had its eyes wide open, appearing unable to close even in death. Alas! Shuegu sighed. He casually tossed the head into the snow. All I found was a fellow disciple's remains. As their senior brother, I wasn't able to take good care of them. Shuegu spoke mournfully, but there was no hint of sorrow on his face. Miss Mu, how is your injury recovering? Shuegu approached Mu Yunxin with concern. Mu Yunxin shook her head. It will take several hours before my injuries recover substantially. Shuegu turned to face everyone. Then let's wait a bit longer. Once Miss Mu's injuries are better, we can set off. Right now, it's only been a little over half an hour since the avalanche. The white tiger will be most alert during this time, making it unsuitable to ascend the mountain. The group fell silent, tacitly acknowledging Shuegu's words. 2 hours later, the sky began to darken. Thick mist started to rise within the secret realm on the mountaintop. It was no exception. At night, thick fog enveloped the area, obstructing visibility, coupled with the limitations on spiritual awareness. It was clearly unsuitable to ascend the mountain. Everyone could only wait until sunrise to set off. The next day, early morning, the sun's rays illuminated the earth. The thick fog began to dissipate. The group circumvented to the other side of the mountain and moved toward the summit. This side of the mountain had not experienced an avalanche. The trees were lush, providing excellent concealment for their movements. Everyone tried to suppress their cultivation aura, relying on their physical strength to navigate through the forest. The task of scouting fell to Rong Jingyun. She summoned a second-level early-stage spirit cat. The spirit cat was 2 feet long, agile in build, swift and highly intelligent. The spirit cat moved silently through the dense forest, making it an excellent scout. Following closely behind the spirit cat was Shuegu, the strongest fighter among them. He was a sword cultivator from the profound Heaven Sword sect and, in terms of offensive power, was outwardly the strongest. Song 1 and the other 4 formed a fan-shaped formation, trailing not far behind Shuegu. With such a formation, if any one side encountered danger, the others could provide timely support. However, this was merely a verbal agreement. When real trouble arose, whether the group would fight or flee would likely depend on the enemy's strength. After traveling several dozen miles toward the mountaintop, the group arrived at the base of a 100-foot cliff. Above the cliff was the stone hall where the exit was located. The group hid beneath the cliff while the spirit cat climbed up to scout the area. The spirit cat moved swiftly and jumped back and forth on the nearly vertical cliff face. Quickly reaching the top of the 100-foot cliff, it crouched at the edge of the cliff, peered around to ensure there were no dangers, and then retreated with a push, leaping up the cliff and disappearing from the sight of the others below. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the spirit cat reappeared at the edge of the cliff. It leaped down from the cliff, directly falling toward the ground 100 feet below. As soon as the spirit cat landed, it jumped onto Rong Jingyun, burying its head in her arms and trembling uncontrollably, as if it had seen something incredibly terrifying. Seeing this, a layer of gloom enveloped everyone's hearts. Then, Rong Jingyun's words confirmed everyone's dark suspicions. According to the spirit cat, the white tiger is sound asleep behind the door of the stone hall. It seems to know that we cultivators must pass through the stone hall to leave the secret realm. It's lying in wait for us. The group exchanged glances, their expressions dark and silent, faced with the golden core stage white tiger. Even gathering all the cultivators in the secret realm would likely not be enough to defeat it. What should we do now? Are we going to be trapped in the secret realm forever? Mu Yunshin said anxiously. Looking frail and helpless, Shuegu said, "Actually, we don't need to defeat the white tiger directly. We just need to find a way to draw it away." Jieku added, "What Shui Daoist says makes sense. But how do we draw the white tiger away? And who will go to distract it? The person who tries to lead the tiger away is likely to face certain death." Hearing this, Shuegu was left speechless and fell silent. Songwen gazed at the cliff and softly said, "It seems that for the time being, we can't think of a way to draw the white tiger away. I still have some matters to attend to, so I won't accompany you." Songwen suddenly wanted to leave the group, drawing the attention of the other four. Rong Jingyun frowned. "Elder Wu, there are only a few days left until the secret realm closes. Where are you going?" Songwen did not answer directly, casually responding, "We've gathered here, but it's of no use. It's better for us to disperse and act separately." After saying this, Songwen used both hands and feet to climb up the rock.